Hey, everybody, welcome to the SRS Files podcast. We got a great episode for you this week. We have a great guest who actually went there with me, and she has a great story. She's overcame some crazy things, including addiction and things that life has thrown at her. And she's got a great story, and I'm really excited to share it with all you guys. So with that being said, here's episode number 5 on the podcast, and I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope you're having a great week, and I hope you're enjoying all the little bonus features I've been putting out there with the new segment I have called Letters, which features me just reading off letters and statements that I find from former students or anything I can find. There was one letters episode I did recently that was some back and forth letters from Lane Bagley and this website called heal/online.org, which was a really great website that has some really great information and stories on it, and a lot of statements from different institutions of people that survived. And yeah, so I'm just reading off the letters, and I'm really excited to be able to have that outlet, because that means if anybody out there who's listening who's not ready or not comfortable to come on the podcast and speak with me one-on-one or in person, I would encourage you to write a letter to me, anonymous, and I can read it on your behalf and be able for you to have your story out there as another form of being able to tell your story. So I'm really looking forward to being able to maybe work with a few people who aren't able to come on or aren't ready to come on. So there's that, and it's easy. You just get to contact me, put a comment, or I'll leave my email address, and I'll start leaving my email address in the description so you guys can email me. And with that being said, let's get into it. Here's episode number 5. I can't believe we're already on episode number 5. I've got a ton of more great content, and I'm also quite surprised that we haven't been shut down yet by the Sorensons family. So we're lucky for that. Because you guys all know and heard that they like to shut people down, and it's hard to find any negative things about this place. But that's not what we're about doing here. We're not about sending out a negative message about anywhere. We're here to just speak our stories and our opinions and what we've gone through, so we can all heal and we can all try and share and the trauma with each other and try and just get to a very positive place. And if that means shedding some light on a place that was abusive and swept a lot of abuse under the rug, including sexual misconduct and just an all-around horrible place, and leaving people with trauma 20-30 years later, then that's just what we're gonna have to do, and that's just what we're gonna have to do. So that's it. So with that being said, let's roll into this episode. Felicia's got a great story for us, and we'll see you at the end of the podcast. All right, guys. We got a guest today. Can you tell us your name?
Felicia Bryan.
And to start off, where are you from? What do you do? Who are you?
So I'm from Utah. I'm still in Utah. I've been here most of my life. For the last 2.5 years, I've been cutting concrete, and actually started a YouTube channel, Cutting Concrete, Diamond Cutting Queen. Right now, I just started a new job last month as a project manager, assistant, trained to be a project manager for telecom. We put a conduit in the ground for fiber. So yeah, fun stuff.
From what I remember, or I've heard, because we've been kind of a little bit in contact since the last month or so, you kind of went from being kind of addicted to drugs to becoming successful and owning your own business and whatnot.
Not my own business, but successful, yes. I mean, when I was cutting concrete, I was working for someone else, but I was pretty good at it. And there's not a lot of women in the world that cut concrete, because it is a very, very strenuous, hard dirty job.
Well,
But
in
yeah, I did.
my own personal opinion, just that you got sober and where you got today is successful enough. I mean, there's not much
Yes.
more in life you can ask for than to be doing something you love and to get yourself back on your feet. So congratulations to that. And I have a lot of respect for that.
I mean, 3 years ago, I was homeless and shooting up heroin and meth. So from that to where I am today, yes, absolutely. I'm very lucky to be alive. And
I'll say you can't even tell, like as myself, maybe about 4 years ago, I was smoking crack, and about 4 years before that, I was doing meth and GHB almost every single day for probably like 4 or 5 months. And, I've been struggling with addiction pretty much all my life, from after SRS until my early 30s. So I definitely have a lot of respect for you.
Thanks. I'm glad you're here today too. It's awesome.
Oh.
Good for you.
So let's get this podcast started. I always start off with the pickup because that kind of paints a picture of the story. So why don't you bring us back to, I think we were there together at the same time, around 2002, 2003. Mm-hmm. So why don't you take us back to 2002, 2003, whenever that was, and tell us about your pickup.
So I knew I was getting sent away. My parents kind of told me, or I overheard, I don't remember, but I knew it. So I ran away from home, and I was like, nope, hell no, you're not taking me. So I ran away and kind of fell off the deep end. I mean, had just turned 15, so I was really young. I was halfway through my 9th grade year. And at that point, before I ran away, I had already been smoking weed and drinking and sneaking out of the house almost every night, like a lot. And then when I ran away, I don't remember, I was gone maybe a couple days. But the night that I got sent away, I was at a party and I was on cocaine. So I tried cocaine for the first time. I was high on weed. I was drunk. Like, I was just completely out of control. Well, my dad found me through my cousin and took me home. And I wasn't expecting anything to happen that night. So I just went to bed, and my light turned on in my bedroom at, I don't know, like 4 or 5 a.m. from what I remember. And there was this Ross, the PE teacher, who was like 6'3", this big dude standing in my bedroom doorway. And he said, "Get up, put your shoes on, we're leaving." He said, "Your sisters are sleeping, your parents are upstairs, and they're not coming down. So don't make a scene, don't make any problems, and let's go. Go get in the car." So yeah, it was a little terrifying. So I did. I listened. I mean, I didn't have anywhere to go. I couldn't jump out my 2-story window. So
you didn't think, oh, hey, this is kind of weird, and maybe this guy's kidnapping me or something?
I mean, it probably crossed my mind, but I already knew I was getting sent away. So I was kind of expecting it. So
you complied.
Yeah, especially after, I for the most part. And there was 2 other kids that were in the car. Well, 1 or 2, I don't even remember. At least 1 that was in the car, and I don't remember saying a word. Like, I was pissed, and I was still coming down from my binge the night before. So I was kind of in shock, I think. And when I got to Sorensons, I mean, there was only, I think, 2 of us from Utah. Everyone else, the 90 to 100 kids that were there, were from all over the United States, even Bermuda, Canada. Like, they were from all over. And I was from Utah, I was only a couple hours from home.
I was from Canada. I was the only Canadian there, and it was interesting to say the least. Yeah,
for sure. So yeah, I was only 2.5 hours from home, maybe, and we drove down there, and I got strip searched and thrown in a brown jumpsuit, and didn't get to talk to my family for, I think it was 3 weeks. You're not even allowed to make any contact whatsoever for the first 2 or 3 weeks that you're there. And it's just kind of a shock. Crazy.
So what was your first impressions of the ranch when you first arrived there after your pickup, and you're fresh?
Well, I was pissed, and I had a huge problem with authority. and I did not like to be told what to do. And obviously that's what my life was going to be like for the next 10 months is how long I ended up being there. But I made the mistake of back talking and giving attitude to Tom's daughter. So from then on, I was on her grudge list, and her and Tom, that whole shift hated me. Like, I could not stay out of trouble. No matter what I did, they would double my points or whatever. So yeah, it was terrifying. I was just pissed. I was not happy to be there. From what I remember, I didn't give a crap.
You were rebelling. You're like, I don't give a crap what's going on. I just don't want to be here. And I don't care how many orange jumpsuits you put me in. I don't care how many workouts you make me do. I'm just not going to comply with this system. Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, it's at that age, and it's tough. It's a tough place to be, and you want to rebel. You don't want to be there. It's tough, and you're only what, 3 hours. I would say about 3 hours from Salt Lake at the least, because Koosharem, Utah was like the closest town was 50 miles, and then the closest city I remember was like 300 miles, or the closest major city at least.
Yep.
So yeah, that what you described is like being on somebody's shit list, as you can say. People like the staff, they're just like regular people. They don't really have much qualifications to work there, but they have a lot of leeway when it comes to the point system, the level system. And if you're on their bad side, you're gonna have a really horrible time. You're gonna be spending most of your time in isolation, most of your time in isolation doing workouts, being in an orange jumpsuit, staring at a wall 24/7. Like this wasn't a walk in the park or a regular rehabilitation center. This was run by a bunch of people who were Mormons who decided to turn a summer camp into an all year round facility for troubled youth, but no one had any education or any kind of qualification, and it was run like something out of a horror movie or some kind of weird cult that you would hear about in stories. So
and because of my grudge with Tommy, I was level 1, at least 8 of the 10 months I was there. So I was running the workouts by the end. Yep, I was there for 10 months. So I mean, the workouts didn't even faze me anymore, which in every weekend workout, especially, there was someone puking, crying, passing out. Like, it was brutal. And the last probably 4 or 5 months, I was running it, and I didn't even give a shit anymore. I'm like, well, it doesn't affect me. So they ended up pulling me out of the workouts and putting me in the horse corrals to shovel shit, because they thought that would be more of a punishment for me. But then I laughed because I love horses so much that I loved it. I don't give a shit. I'll go shovel shit if I get to hang out with a horse.
Well, you're a pretty damn tough kid, it sounds like.
Figure out anything. Yeah, it was yeah, probably why I cut concrete for 2.5 years, or how I was able to do that, I guess.
Yeah, you have some type of crazy strong mentality, and it seems like there's nothing much that would faze you. This place kind of broke down a lot of people, man. And
oh, yes.
so we kind of discussed why you went there. You kind of explained a little bit because you were using drugs and whatnot. Do you feel like being sent to this place, you felt a little bit abandoned by your parents?
Absolutely. I have definitely had abandonment issues my whole life.
Do you feel like that's something that you're ever going to get over?
I don't know. I've done a lot of therapy in my life, and I've worked on it. But I mean, yeah, I think eventually I will. It's been over 20 years now, so.
Do you think because you were there at such a young age and such a pivotal time in your life that maybe this place has caused so much trauma even 20 years later, and there's things you went through in your life that's even maybe significantly can cause trauma, but it always leads back to this one place that you're at when you're a kid?
I think it's probably one of 2 or 3 things in my life, yeah, that has caused a lot of trauma. I've let it go. I mean, I don't like to dwell on it and let it affect me. I've been through a lot of horrible things in my life, and I think I've done pretty well moving past it, at least in the last 3 years. Before that, absolutely. I used it against my parents. I think they used it against me because my dad even got laid off when I was like just a few months in. And so they lost everything. They lost their home. They lost their 2 cars. Like they lost everything because of that, because they wouldn't pull me out of that school. And it was $4,500 a month. So, you know, I think there was a little bit of a grudge on both sides with me and my parents, but
Did your parents
I don't
ever
think it
blame?
affects me today.
Did your parents ever blame you for the amount of grief and stress they had to go out with spending all the money to send you there?
Oh yeah. I think my mom did a little bit for a long time. I don't think she does today. We have a better relationship today than we ever did, but
Good.
3 years ago and prior, yeah, I think so.
I think that's family is really important, and that's great that you guys were able to kind of work through that. You know, same with me.
Yes.
My parents, my mom and I and my stepfather we're very close. They're, you know, we're a family, but at the same time, there's always going to be that separation because of this whole Sorensons Ranch thing, you know? And we'll never have a relationship that I personally will ever feel is what I want because of this experience. And to be honest, I feel like I'm so happy where I'm at in my life. Everything is great, but at the same time, the only thing that's helping me heal those wounds from 20 years ago, which I'm only starting to realize that they are wounds, and is doing this podcast and being able to talk to people like yourself and kind of hear your story, your experiences, and that makes me heal a little bit, even though it doesn't even scratch the surface of it. It's still something, and I feel like that's important. And I also do feel like it's important to shed some light on this place a little bit too. So with that being said, can you tell me a little bit about the level system?
Yeah, so when you get there, you're level 2. It's just a point system. Anything you do, you swear, you get caught doing something, or you back talk. That was my biggest, is I would give attitude. With Tommy, I would say one thing, and I wouldn't mean it to come across with attitude, but it would come across with attitude apparently, because no matter what, I don't think I ever talked to Tom or Tommy more than once or twice that entire time I was there without losing words, because I couldn't even open my mouth without them either assuming that I was going to be a snot or me actually being a snot. And so I was level 1 pretty much the entire time I was there.
That's gotta be tough.
Yeah, because you get all these privileges. I can see how it would be a great place for people who are like level 4 and 5. I never got to level 4, not even close. And
well, I got there and I went straight up the system. I never got level 1. I went right to level 5, and
really?
I'm not gonna sit here and say like there's no trauma or anything. From what I witnessed
For sure.
and
Yes.
just being there in general, I'm still feeling the trauma after 20 years. So it doesn't it doesn't matter to me that I was never level 1. I was still there and I witnessed things, and that doesn't take apart from how effed up this whole place and the whole system and the people who run this place and everything. So I just wanted to get that out, is that I wasn't level 1, and I couldn't even imagine the trauma that you would have to be at that place for as long as you were, and to be level 1 as long as you were, from the point where I wasn't ever. It's like we were opposite there, but I still feel like maybe I'm holding on to this place so long, and yours is way worse, is what I'm trying to say, in my opinion.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, for sure. So, when you're level 1, when you're level 3, it's mandatory to go swimming. I think once a week is what it was. You don't have a choice. You have to
it was like bi-weekly, what I remember.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't. So And then when you're level 3, you at least can go do activities. And we did. We had some fun activities. My favorite was the horse camp out. We got to go on a horse camp out for a few nights up in like Zion's National Park or something. I don't remember. But that was really fun. And then we got to go play capture the flag at night sometimes. And we would like cover our faces in coal. And so we were all blacked out and play with glow sticks. So that there was maybe 2 or 3 activities the entire time that were actually really cool.
I actually do remember the capture flag. That was pretty memorable, so I would say.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. But when you're level 1, you don't get any privileges. You don't get, I don't even think you get allowance at level 1. You get nothing. So allowance comes and everyone's getting this money that they get to go buy treats and ramen and whatever, and you're level 1, you don't get it. And then if you're in isolation, you're in an orange jumpsuit and you're sitting in a cubicle staring at a wall 24 hours a day, other than workout. When you're in workout, then you're not. You get to go out for a minute. But yeah, I was in isolation, if I remember right, for a week or a week and a half total. So thank God not very long, because oh my gosh, that was bad. But
can you tell us a little bit more about the isolation? Were you allowed to shower, eat? Was it?
I mean, yeah, they brought you food, but you basically, so there's, how do I even explain it? It was like a 5-foot by 7-foot room. So, well, it was a trailer and there's sections. I think there were probably 10 sections and there were walls in between each section. So, and then there's a bed in each section, and you have to sit on the back side of the bed and stare at the blank wall all day. You could not talk, you could not lay down, you couldn't even lean on the wall. You had to sit up and stare at the wall. And a week of that would drive anyone absolutely insane. And so, yeah, I mean, you were actually glad that you could go to workout because you could get out and stop staring at a freaking wall. But so yeah, you're in an orange jumpsuit. The only time you get out is to workout. During the week, you have workout. Oh, you don't even go to school when you're in there. So you're missing school. During the week, if you're level 1 and not in isolation, then you would have workout right after school from, I think it was 3:30 to 5, and then just up until dinner. So between school and dinner, you would work out the whole time. During the week, workouts weren't bad. For some people, they still were, especially if you're not used to working out. I mean, they were rough, but weekends were, oh my gosh, they were a nightmare. You were up at the crack of dawn. You had to run, I don't even know how many laps. You need cadences. If you fell out of line or if you tripped, you would get in trouble. And I can't tell you how many people I watched get restrained and shoved up against a brick wall, arms broken, bloody noses. Like, it was bad. And if you fainted or you puked, you get screamed at. And if you didn't immediately get back up when you came to, you'd get restrained. So yeah, it was bad. Weekends, you would get a shitty little breakfast, go straight to workout. You would probably work out for what, 4 hours straight? I mean, it was nonstop. You'd run the laps and then you'd do a brutal workout. And then I think you'll run laps afterwards too. And then everyone would put orange jumpsuits on if you didn't already have an orange jumpsuit for being in isolation. And we would go on a hike up, what did they call it? Razorback Mountain or something. And it was a
Someone mentioned it the last one. I can't remember. Humpback Mountain or something weird, or
yeah, something like that. So it was a brutal hike, like miles and miles. And you're in orange jumpsuits, and you're in a line. You have to walk in a line. The guys in one and the girls in another. And if you had to go to the bathroom, you had to pull down your entire jumpsuit. Which for a girl, we have, things that you can't pull down your jumpsuit and have people not see. So you'd have to go try and hide in a bush, which they wouldn't even always let you go to the bathroom. You'd have to ask permission, and then they'd let you when they felt like it was necessary or when they think that you waited long enough. So then you would go and have to pop squat and use the bathroom, and then you'd eat these little sack lunches and you'd keep hiking. I mean, you were literally from 5 or 6 a.m. when you got up until dinner time, nonstop. Workout, hike, and then finally you'd get home for dinner. which
And you
was,
would go
what,
back
5
into
o'clock?
isolation to eat the dinner and then stare at the wall till you go to bed.
If you were in isolation, yes. Yep, isolation was like the very lowest of the low. Level 1, you still lived in your normal cabin, but
Okay,
you
that
still
makes
had
sense.
to do the workouts. Yeah, so I was level 1, 8 of the 10 months. So I still lived in a cabin. I was still out with people. It's just when it was workout time, I was in workout. So my weekends were completely consumed with weekend workout.
Yeah, that's brutal.
So it was very brutal. Very brutal. So yeah, they put me out in the horse corrals for, I don't even know, a short period of time, but that was not a punishment for me. So they put me back in workout after.
Let's talk a little bit about the working on the farm and the farm in general. Do you remember anything like any animals being tortured or mistreated? Because from
No,
a
I don't remember that.
I've heard a few stories from a few other episodes that people heard of some people torturing some of the animals. I've heard
Really?
of people having sex with some of the animals.
Oh, I heard that Jordan had sex with one of the animals. But he should not have been at that ranch. I think he was probably very mentally unstable before he got sent there, and then they tortured the shit out of that poor kid. Like, he was
Oh,
restrained and the shit beat out of him
so who
constantly.
who was
And
Jordan? Because I hear a lot about this guy, and I have a very bad memory, so I can't remember who this guy was.
so he was a lifer. From what I remember, he was even at the juvenile, or what's the younger kids place that they send you to before Sorensons for like 12
High
and
Top
younger.
Ranch, maybe?
High Top, yes. So
Okay.
I think he was at High Top for a while, and then his parents just basically abandoned it and said, nope, you guys can have it. So he was a ward of the state. So he was going to be there till he was 18, which he was, so probably 10 years total. Who knows how old he was when he got sent there. But he
Wow.
was very, very mentally unstable. He was in isolation 95% of the time when I was there. So for 10 months, he was in an orange jumpsuit and staring at a blank wall
Was
every single day.
Do you think he had some type of like disabilities and some
Oh, for
mental
sure.
issues?
Yes, he definitely had some sort of mental issues. He might have had some autism or something,
It would be
but
fair to
I mean,
say
yeah, from
that
what I can remember.
it would be fair to say that the staff and the system didn't accommodate his mental illness and they pretty much tortured him and made life brutal for
Oh
him.
yeah, yes, there were
So
definitely some staff that were way worse than others. Tom was definitely one of them, and I don't remember specifically, but I know there was a few staff members that beat the shit
would you
out of him.
you would say it was pretty unethical the way they treated
Oh yes.
this minor child who's underage and probably should have been in a hospital or be treated a lot more kinder and given the
Yes.
opportunity to kind of, but instead of
So
giving a crap, they pretty much tortured him and made his life a living
yes.
hell, which I don't understand how this guy probably attempted but didn't kill himself, like the torture he went through.
And what I noticed too is I think the kids that, and I could be wrong, this is just my perception, the kids that their parents just left them there and said, you can have them, we're done with them, and didn't have any contact, those are the kids that they abused the most, because they weren't answering to anyone, so it didn't matter. And so the kids that had parents at home that they talked to consistently and whatever, I think they weren't as rotten to, just because they didn't want to get in trouble. And that's my view. That's what I saw.
So these people, these counselors, most of them were pretty cruel individual people.
I'd say about half. Maybe, yeah, about half. Not the other half. The other half, there were some that actually did care. They were very kind. They actually gave a shit. But the other half, oh, yeah.
Would you say that would you agree that half of the staff that were good had a heart, but they still had to fit in with this kind of Mormon / Sorensons Ranch / small Koosharem vibe, and they're all related. They had to kind of fit in with them, and they still had to be a little bit cruel. They couldn't fully be a good individual because they had to kind of watch out for being fired or not being too rough.
Yeah,
Or
it's possible.
I feel like there was some of that going on, and I feel like for a lot of the people who weren't related Sorensons wise or weren't living in this town, kind of had to fit in with them and kind of had to try a little bit harder, and I feel like maybe that some of that is true. It's hard
Yeah,
to explain.
I can see. Yeah, it is very hard to explain. And especially because my perspective from 20 years ago is going to be so skewed. Like, if I could actually go back in time and see, I'm sure my views would be so different.
Oh,
But
especially coming from your teenager self. Yeah.
oh yeah, with how rebellious I was and how much of a little shit I was. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anywhere that my parents could have sent me that would have done me any good. You can't change until you're ready to change. If you don't want to change, you will not change. I mean, like, I just listened to Brandon's, and like he was saying, fake it till you make it. That is exactly what I did. I faked it until I made it. I tried to manipulate myself out of there. I I did think for a time, for well, the majority of the time I was there, I thought if I graduate high school, they can't keep me. So if I graduate, then I will get out. So I hauled ass. I finished 3.5 years of high school in like 9 months. And then I found out, I'm like, hey, I'm done. And I went to my therapist and I'm like, hey, I'm done. Get me out of here. I want to go home. I'm ready. And they're like, no, you're not going anywhere. So
Did they tell you you need to keep working your program and you're not ready?
yep.
That's exactly what they did to me. And that was probably made the abandonment feeling feel even worse. And I felt kind of like I was in this weird cult place and my life was pretty much like they were running a business and my life was caught in the middle of it because they wanted that 4.5 G's a month. They wanted, and they somehow they convinced your parents that, oh, he needs to be here, he's not ready, and blah 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 blah. Even though I went from starting there to level 5, living off campus, doing everything I needed to do, and like you and Brandon, I worked the program. Like pretty much anybody who's there who's not on level 1 and getting in trouble, they're manipulating, they're lying, and they're trying to get out of trying to work the system because they have you so they treat you so poorly and so it's such an abusive place that you can't really get away without doing that. Oh, we kind of lost you for a sec.
Yeah, my phone rang. Sorry.
No worries. So I think yeah, like you and Brandon, like most people, I had to lie and cheat and really like fake it till you make it and work the system and pretty much to get to where I want to get. And then they still say he's not working his program. He's not finishing it. And no, you can't say that because we faked it. We needed to be there longer. It was really they really wanted to get as much money out of us as they can to fund their little Koosharem, Utah town because everybody that works at that town is living in that town. It's a population of 500. Now it's a population of around 300, I read. And yeah, everybody that lives in that town is working at that facility indirectly or not
Yep,
directly.
for sure. Very true.
Yeah. So really what Brandon said was true and I really liked the way he worded it and it's really hard to talk about these things, especially when it brings up so many emotions, and it's hard to describe how traumatic the experience was. So, with that being said, do you remember having your first phone call when you're finally allowed to have your first phone call?
Not really. Vaguely. I mean, I remember it had been a while, and I just remember bawling and trying to be apologetic, but I don't know if I truly meant it. I wanted to do anything to get out of it.
Do you remember any staff members sitting with you at the time and prepping you for the phone call?
Oh, yeah.
So, what was that? Can you explain that a little bit?
Ooh. Um, don't remember real specifics. I just know that there was definitely, I think, 2 staff that would sit there and monitor the phone call. And they did tell me ahead of time things that I'm not allowed to say, but I don't remember specifically what it was.
I think that
But yes,
speaks
they definitely
volume.
monitored.
I think that speaks volume enough what you just said right there. Because yes, it was monitored, 2 people there. I don't remember exactly what they said as well, but I remember it was very within the lines of you can't say anything negative about this place or you're going to go back to level 1. So you're already pretty much brainwashed at this point to be like, or conditioned at this point to just be like, I'm just going to go with the system because I don't want to get in trouble. And this is
Oh
my
yeah.
life now.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that being very
Sure.
traumatic for me.
It's very traumatic for me too.
So why don't you tell us something a little bit positive, maybe 3 of your best experiences?
Definitely the capture the flag and the horse camp out. The horse riding period was very, very good for me. I am a huge animal lover, and especially horses. And so being able to escape reality and go ride a horse, ride through the cow fields or whatever it was, that was amazing. Unfortunately, I was usually in trouble, so I didn't get to do it very often. But when I did, it was good. My counselor was Linda. She was, we butted heads, but like I said, I had a huge problem with authority, so I butted heads with anyone that tried to tell me what to do. But I could tell she cared, and she was very, she tried. So for the most part, I think she wanted what was best for me. So school, there's definitely some teachers that stick out, like just like Brandon said, both Steves. I'll never forget the art Steve. Was really cool. Martin was fun to screw with because he would get so mad.
He was a character.
And the computer, yes, he was. And the computer teacher was a crazy woman.
Yeah, she was one you didn't really want to speak out to or something. She scared the living shit out of me.
Oh yeah, she was a frightening little old woman.
I feel like most of like the older women that were from Koosharem or worked at this place were frightening. Like I remember the girl who worked in the cafeteria, the girl who serves you the food, the first person you see when you go to pick up your plate, and you had to sanitize a lot. I remember she was scary as all hell. You don't want to mess
I
with those.
vaguely remember her.
No one ever remembers her, but I'm like, I remember her so well for some reason. Maybe because I got along with everybody there. I went up the level system, and I kind of like had a way with greasing everybody's elbows, rubbing elbows with everybody
Yeah.
and getting on their good side because I worked my way up and I never got in trouble and I was kind of like pretty decently okay with everybody there. But for some reason, doesn't matter who you are, she was a CUNT to everybody that she met. You're good, you're bad. I just hated her, man. Holy.
Yeah, that's how I felt about Tommy and Lucinda. She did not like me or Tom or anyone on that shift did not like me.
A lot of people do mention Tom, and it's interesting to hear because he was probably one of the most hardest guys there, but he was also people really do feel like he did help them and he did have a good heart, which is which kind of
I didn't
makes
see it, so I'm glad that happened.
I feel like if you're on his like shit list, like we said, yeah, you're not having a good time.
No,
But
they're not.
there's always a few people that get mentioned. It's always Tom is there and Martin.
Yeah, seriously.
So you were kind of mentioning. Sure, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say one thing too, the meds thing. everyone was on meds. I do remember that. And I do remember they put me on trazodone because I had insomnia that I had dealt with already for some time and dealt with for 15 years after this place too. But so they put me on a sleeping pill called trazodone.
I was on the
And I
same
just
one.
remember, or yeah. So I just remember it was like my first or second night being on it, and I took it and I passed out. And then I woke up the next morning and they told me that my cabin had gotten in trouble. We had like probably 5 or 6 girls in there. We had gotten in trouble for talking too late. And so they made us all go run laps around in the yard. And I don't remember any of it. And they said that I was just giving Tommy all this attitude or whatever staff member it was. I don't remember specifically, but I don't remember anything. Like I was out of it. I was like acting like I was all drunk because I was on my sleeping pills. Yeah. So
Well, maybe the sleeping pill did affect you and you don't have a memory of it. And that's kind of unfair for them to punish you for the medication that you never asked for probably in the first place. Probably were wrongly diagnosed. And, yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember another thing about the meds is all the students would cheek them, which means you would somehow have them hidden in your mouth somewhere because they flash a light in there and they make you lift your tongue up and down. So these kids were taking a big chance because if you got caught doing that with your pills, that might have been like an automatic level 1 because you're up to no good, and they discourage that a lot. But every kid would do that because they wanted to share and give and get other shit and swap pills so they can possibly get high. So that was another thing with the medication that was pretty wild. I remember trying probably every type of pharmaceutical drug known to man, and I'm only like 16 years old. It's pretty.
Yep.
And I didn't do any chemical drugs before I went to Sorensons Ranch. I smoked weed very heavily.
Really?
I drank and I did mushrooms, and I always had the mentality, keep it natural, But as soon as I left Sorensons, I was doing every drug known to man,
I remember trying to grow shrooms in the shampoo bottles or something. We tried to grow what? Oh, and then or someone found some in the cow shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of people would go searching for them the cow shit, and they would get in trouble for that.
Oh yeah, for sure. We would hide cigarette butts too. We would find cigarette butts and we'd hide them.
And then roll them in the Bible paper.
I never did that one, but yeah, we definitely found our hiding spots in the cabins, and they would come and search everywhere, and that was always terrifying.
Yeah, it was terrifying. So we were talking a little bit about the school before. What did you think about the school, the teachers? You said there was 2 that stood out. Is there anything else you want to comment about the school system?
I don't know if it's just because my memory is so bad from all the drugs, which is a very good possibility, but I feel like school was really easy for me. I finished 3.5 years of high school in 8 or 9 months. And so the fact that someone even can do that, I don't feel like I got my full education. Or maybe I did and I just don't remember it.
I think you just put it perfectly right there. And it's almost a fact. It's like they get what they want, you get the credits, but you're not actually learning anything. You're going through the same books and shit. It's incredible that's the same response that I get from everybody that I ask them about. They say it was really easy. I was able to do all my work, get the credits, pretty much to make the parents happy and satisfied, but you're not learning anything. You're not getting an education, which is the most important thing about going to school, So
my kids, like my daughter is almost 12, my other one's 15, and they'll talk to me about stuff. They're like, oh yeah, do you remember learning about this in high school? Do you remember learning about this? I'm like,
nope.
Not even a little bit.
So we talked about your 3 best experiences, which is probably experiences that were positive in a sense where you didn't even feel like you were at the ranch in those moments. You felt kind of like you had a little bit of escape and a taste of reality and real life for a few. And I think that speaks volume in this place at how hard it was to just be there in general.
Yeah,
So with that being said, would you be able to remember maybe your three worst experiences or three things you hated the most about it?
definitely weekend workouts. Yeah, I mean, that was a nightmare just to see, especially to see Jordan get the shit beat out of him. I think Nicole, oh, from what I remember, she got the shit beat out of her a few times too. She
Um,
had a mouth.
Was that from female or male
Not that
staff?
she deserved it, but no. Oh, I'm sure it was male because I'm pretty sure male staff were the only ones that ever ran the workout. And she would talk back when she didn't want to do something or whatever in the workout. And I know I watched her get shoved up against a brick wall. I almost remember, I thought her nose got broken in her arm or something. But seeing her get the shit beat out of her, because she was tiny. I mean, I'm a small person, and she was smaller than me, and probably weighed 90 pounds, soaking wet. Like she was tiny, tiny. And so it shouldn't take more than one grown ass man to restrain her. But I remember more than once where there was 2, 3, 4 dudes tackling her down. And I mean, Jordan was a big dude. He was tall. I guess when he got there, he weighed like 300 pounds or something. And then because of the workout and because of everything they put him through, he was skinny by the time I got there.
Wow.
And you could tell like he had all the extra skin and everything. So you could tell it wasn't alive. Like he used to be a big kid and he was skinny as hell when I got there.
Wow.
So, but he was a tall dude. So yeah, I mean, I can see it taking 1 or 2 dudes to bring a tall, man down or a tall boy down, but a teeny little 90-pound girl, yeah, that was hard to watch.
And these restraints were brutal, and they were pretty unethical, as you can say.
Yes.
The nose is broken, blood flying around, arms busted, legs busted, pretty much shoving your face into the ground, and they weren't fun, and they weren't fun to watch either. It's a little bit traumatizing and scary to see like this could happen to me like that in a second.
It's very traumatizing.
So, with that being said, do you feel like the ranch is a good place? Would you send your kids there?
Like I said, I have 2 daughters. One's 15 and one's almost 12. And I have thought, like, what if they start to go down the path that I went down? And it's terrifying because I don't blame my parents for sending me there at all. I mean, I get it. I probably would have been dead. Like I don't think if I hadn't gotten sent away the night that I did, I really don't think I would have been. So I obviously needed something. That place, I don't agree with everything about that place, but I do think some good did come out of it. But I didn't realize the good until in the last 3 years. Like I had this thing in my head about how horrible it was, and I still had that grudge with my parents and everything. But like I said, until you want to change, you're not going to change. So
Do you feel that maybe there could have been a better place they sent you to where you weren't being abused
yeah, oh
and
yeah, for sure.
so
Yep.
like with that being said, of course you needed to be somewhere. Of course that just being anywhere helped you, but that doesn't take away from the fact that this place was horrible. So of
Nope, it
course,
doesn't. And I think Tom, I know didn't he quit a couple years later or something?
I believe he got fired, and then him and his wife Debbie
Okay,
moved to like Hawaii.
okay, yeah. Because what I remember hearing was that the place got like temporarily shut down and a bunch of staff was fired. But I don't know. I could be remembering wrong. But
That's it.
so yeah, I think. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I could be right. It sounds familiar. It could be right. I don't know.
So I mean, I don't. Obviously, this was a long time ago, so I don't know how it is today. But I know that Tom and his shift, and there were definitely some people that were very abusive that I do not agree with their tactics. So yeah, it scares me thinking that, if my daughters ever get to that point where I have to send them to somewhere, that's always going to be in the back of my mind. And
But don't you feel like the experiences that you went through in your life that you would be able to talk to them or understand them better and kind of maybe be helpful to them, and probably the last resort wouldn't even be sending them a place like Sorenson's. It would be something where they would feel safe and they would feel loved and they would not be abused or subjected to the abuse. I mean, there's so many other options out there, and why send them to a place that is run by a bunch of people that are related and live in a small town and it's got that cult kind of feeling or something out of a horror movie? I mean,
yeah.
I just feel like there's
Yeah.
way better options. There's always way better options. I don't even feel like this place should still be open with the amount of things they have swept under the rug and the amount of abuse they
Oh, I
subjected
agree.
people to. I think these people should probably be in jail. Like the main people that run this place, they should be in jail, and everybody else that's worked there that's been witnessing these things are just as guilty because they stayed there and they didn't report anything. So I definitely feel pretty strongly about that.
Yeah, I mean, we've no, well, let's see, we've talked about how many people that have killed themselves that went there. I remember little Jan, she was there when I was there, and like, I don't remember, a few years after I left, a couple of years after I left, she had hung herself, which she tried it once, and a staff walked in and found her and pulled her down and resuscitated her. But then she did it again and ended up succeeding. So she
So
killed
she
herself
did that.
also.
She didn't do that while she was at Sorenson's, did she?
Yes, I
Oh
thought
my
so.
God. I didn't know that. That's pretty sad because I loved Jen. I thought she was one of the nicest girls I ever met, and
She was so sweet.
she was so
Yes.
sweet and she was so quiet and timid. I couldn't imagine how hard it must have been for someone like she was young, she was shorter. I was 5'4" and I still am, obviously, but she was shorter than I was, and
She was
she
pretty little
was she
girl.
was a great soul. I remember we would get along, and yeah.
She was. That was heartbreaking to hear that. She
So
was.
you mentioned there was some other people too that may have committed suicide and that went
I don't
there.
know about there. I just know like Jason. I remember we talked about he did not too long ago.
Well, he
Within
spent
the
probably
last
quite a
few
few years at
years.
that place, and I think he might have went to military school after that, or he joined the military, and it wasn't long after that he decided to end his life. That's sad too. I remember living at the off-campus house with him briefly before he got discharged, and you would never think that someone that strong and yeah would have the that kind of would do that, you know? Was there anybody else I'm forgetting? And these are just people that we went there with. Could you imagine
Yeah,
the
I
the the since 1958, or you know what I mean? Since people have started going there, like, well, anyways, that's a pretty hard thing to think about. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your life after leaving the ranch?
so I got home and I think I did well for a minute, like maybe a month, and then I started getting in trouble again. And so my parents put me on an ankle monitor for 4 months.
You on what?
I had an ankle monitor on.
Like you're like in prison or something, like
Yeah,
house
yeah.
arrest.
So, yep, house arrest. So I couldn't even go get the mail, otherwise the cops would get called. So I did that while I was 16 because I got out right before I turned 16.
How did you get
Um,
out, first of all?
I don't even remember.
Did your parents just not have enough money? They pull you out? Because it's kind of crazy that they didn't try and convince you to be there till you're 18, like they tried to
It
do.
probably was financial. I guarantee it, because my dad had lost his job after a couple months, and so I'm sure it was financial. I was doing better. I mean, 10 months.
You finished
Towards
school.
the end, last month, I did good. So
Well,
yeah, I mean, I finished school. I did save. I saved, I think 1 or 1.5 credits, because once I found out that once I graduated, I couldn't get out. I'm like, well then, screw it. I'm going to save a couple credits to take free college classes when I get out. So I had the right mindset for a short time. I did enroll in a CNA and an EMT class, and then I still hated my parents for everything. And so once I got off the ankle monitor, I'm like, screw it, I'm moving out. So I moved out. I think I was within a year of thinking Sorensons, probably. I moved out. Moved in with a friend. Some crap happened. We got in a fight over something really stupid, and she kicked me out. And so I lived in my car for a couple weeks. So I was still going to school, but living in my car, and ended up moving in with some drug dealers and started selling heroin and cocaine for a bit, and got addicted real quick. And then I think I was there maybe 4 months, and then an ex-boyfriend found out I was there, and so him and his mom came and got me out, helped me get clean. And then I did good. Well, he used to be he was an ex-tweaker, and I was an ex-heroin addict. I'd never tried meth, he'd never tried heroin, so we had this little deal. Okay, you try mine once, I'll try yours once, and we'll just never do it again, just this one time. Well, so the first time I tried meth, I got arrested. I was 17, and so my dad had to come pick me up since I was still a minor, and I hadn't lived at home, like I hadn't talked to him in months. So he had to drive and come pick me up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And then I ended up going to Juvie and Genesis, which is another place. It's at the Utah State Women's Prison, or it was the old Utah State Women's Prison. They turned into a juvenile center. So I was there for 90 days, and then got out, and I did really well for a while. Ended up got pregnant and had my daughter, who had some very serious heart complications. Had 3 open heart surgeries, and
Wow.
Yeah, she's my little miracle baby. If I had another kid with her dad, the chances of having another kid with the same genetic condition were like 50%. So I knew of someone that had 3 kids with the exact same condition as my daughter. 2 of them died.
Wow, that's heavy.
Yeah, so she's the one that's 15 now. She's still doing well. She has liver problems now because of a leak in her heart, but she will have to have a heart transplant, and most likely a liver transplant in the next.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah.
Well, I hope she doesn't ever fall down the drug path that you have, because with those kinds of yeah, that's scary to even think
she
about.
wouldn't survive. Not at all. So,
but I think having your
she's doing
genes,
good so
she's pretty tough, to
yes. She is very tough, for sure.
yeah. Well, that's awesome.
So yeah, so I mean, I've struggled with addiction pretty much off and on my whole life. I did well for a few years while I was in the hospital with her, and taking care of her. And then I got married, and he was on pain pills, and I didn't know how bad it was until our honeymoon. Well, then, like, I would take him occasionally, but then I got pregnant with my second daughter, and so I tried to help him get clean the whole time I was pregnant, and for a few months after that, he wouldn't get clean. He spent like 40 grand in 1 year on pain pills, and so he ended up overdosing and dying.
Holy.
When our daughter was 5 years old, she walked in and found him. So
that's
both my
traumatizing.
kids have been through a lot of horrible things.
Wow. I never knew the magnitude of your story. That's
yeah, it's
wild and crazy, but
crazy. Yeah. So I did well again for a while, and then I ended up getting married, and we had my dream home. We had everything. My kids were slowly moving back in, and we were watching Breaking Bad. and he had never tried meth. And he asked me, he's like, well, can you still get that? I'm like, well, my dealer's number is in my head. Like, of course, and we're 30 minutes away, if that. So he's like, well, let's just try it once. I just want to try it. So we did, and then it all went to shit for me. So lost everything, was homeless, and
from the freaking TV show.
Yeah. He's like, that looks like fun. I want to try it.
He's like, wait, it's not blue?
Oh, yeah, right. Jeez. So yeah.
Oh man, that's quite a story. I mean, I don't even know what to ask from that, but I'm kind of curious your opinion about that women's place you went to, you were talking about earlier, compared to Sorensons Ranch. Was it as bad?
No, it was definitely not as bad. It was very different. Like, we weren't allowed to even make eye contact with the boys. So yeah, we just kind of did our own thing. It was mainly community service. Like, what I did is I was with a 5-woman crew, 5-girl crew, and we would drive around on a 15-seater state van, and we had our trailer behind it with all our lawn mowing equipment, and we would just go mow lawns all day long.
Oh, that sounds a lot like a big break from SRS. It would be more relaxed.
Oh yeah, yes, it was great. I didn't mind it at all. Like,
you were prepared.
We were able to
like,
talk.
This is
people.
Nothing.
Yeah, it was awesome. So, like, I did not mind that at all. We got to mow lawns, or I got to work in the animal shelters and go clean up shit, which, again, I love animals. So.
Yeah, you're already like, I've been there.
Yeah. If I get a dog, I'll be happy. So, yeah, it was very different, for sure. They were not, I mean, they were state run, basically. So they had a lot of regulations that they could never get away with anything that Sorensons.
Yeah, Sorensons was a privately owned place by the Sorensons, and they had, actually, I heard the sheriff of Koosharem is a Sorenson, which speaks quite a lot of volume about this town, Koosharem, that we were all subjected to. And
they run that town, that's for sure.
So, do you still have any trauma now from being there? Do you still hold any trauma or grudges and pain?
Like I said, 3 years ago I did, but now I do still have a little bit of abandonment issues that I'm still working through. But other than that, I mean, yeah, it took 17 years, but I'm pretty much over it now. Like, the small abandonment issues is really the only thing that is affecting me today.
I think it's, in my opinion, I feel like it's something that you can overcome and not let like destroy you or whatnot. But it's still always gonna kind of be there. I'm always gonna have that feeling of abandonment, or I'm always gonna feel like I talked with someone in a previous episode about how it took us, and we both agreed, it took us many, many years to mature as we were watching our friends be successful, get married, have kids, yada, 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 while we're sitting there just partying, having fun, trying to make up for that 1, 2, 3, 4 years, however long we were there. And it took me till I was like early 30s until I was like ready to be like, let go of this life. And it's like, well, partying gets old after a while too, And
yes,
but it took me a long time to kind of mature and get out of that thing. And I feel like a lot of people relate with that went through this SRS place. And that's why it was so hard for me to get to the point where I'm at now, where I should have been here when I was 16 years old. I should have been like following this step, doing what I love doing, and working towards my goals and whatnot. And here I am, 35, just getting to that point,
Yep. 34, and yep, in the last 3 years, finally I'm grown up and responsible and mature.
There's one other question that I'd always find uncomfortable to ask, but do you remember any like sexual misconduct or any kind of sexual abuse going on at this place? Or heard of any stories?
Don't. I No, I mean, I heard rumors, but nothing that I ever like took it. I mean, I took it all with a grain of salt because I know I heard, I mean, teenagers are gonna spread rumors, they're gonna tell horrible things when they're trying or talk about things and exaggerate things when they want to get out of a place. So I didn't know whether it was true or not. So I honestly, I don't.
That's fair. In your opinion, and what are your thoughts about the people who run this place, the Sorensons, Jills and the Shanes, and the people who own this business? What is your opinion about these guys?
Well, I think I don't know. It could go either way. It really could because maybe they did start this to try and make a difference, and maybe they started it purely for financial reasons. Like
I
obviously,
mean, you would want to
freaking
think
cash cow.
yeah,
Like
you would
it
want to
makes
think
so
they had
much
some
money.
type of compassion or something.
I like to think so, yes. I mean, because what I also have to realize or like to think about is they weren't even there running. Like all these horrible things that happened, I don't even know how much of it they even knew about or had control over because they were never there. So, you know, like really, is it just these specific staff members that were rotten people that caused all this, or was it the culture that caused it and they just made it okay and so everyone just fell in line? Like it's really hard to
I feel like that's a
it's hard
very,
to tell.
I think it's very nice that you could have those thoughts and think that these people would have some compassion in their heart. But I personally believe that this ranch has been going on for so long that they know every little thing that's going on in this place.
It's
And
very
they
possible.
and they have been doing it for so long and they're so good at sweeping things under the rug. I don't feel like that there's one thing they miss. So with that being said, you're the most guilty at that point because you're allowing this to go on. But I'm really I appreciate your opinion, and I think that that's very valid and admirable of you to be able to think that because you're obviously a good person, and you would want to think that these people have some compassion in their heart and they want to help kids. But I personally don't.
I respect your opinion too, because I can definitely see why you would think that as well. So it could go either way for in my mind. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, we came through. We had a great discussion. We covered a lot, as well as I always say. We never really scratched the surface about Sorensons Ranch. We never scratched even close to the surface about your life and your story, which I think is amazing. And I think you should write a book or something because of the crazy stuff you went through. And with that being said,
Yeah, I'm probably going to.
I'd really like to do a part number 2 with you and every guest I do, and a little bit further down the road, and maybe end it here unless there's anything else you want to add or talk about or share with us that you think would be interesting or that you want to talk about.
No, just I was on another podcast a bit ago that's on my YouTube channel. So I did tell a little bit about my story and people that struggle with addiction. I started, I have a Facebook page and Instagram and stuff where I try and help other people that are struggling with addiction just because I dealt with it for so many years. So it's called Diamond Cutting Queen. I have the Facebook and Instagram as both Diamond Cutting Queen. But yeah, I tell my story. I have some good YouTube videos on there. If you know anyone that's struggling with addiction still, or know anyone that's struggling with addiction still, or has in the past and likes to hear an inspiring story or a success story, then check it out. So,
and I will try and leave a link kind of thing in the description when I put this one up. Yeah, I'd love to. And I think you should go follow her and support her because she deserves it. Look what she's done. And yeah, it's pretty amazing. And I have a lot of respect for anybody who can overcome their addiction and find some purpose and meaning in life, and realize that life is so much worth living. You don't need to give up on yourself. A lot of people who suffer with addiction, they'll end up having something maybe happen that's not that bad, just minor like mishap in life, and they'll go right back to using drugs again. And I feel like it takes a lot of years sometimes to realize that you're better than that, and you can life can be so much more than that. So
Yeah,
I
I mean, even though I've been clean over 3 years, when I'm dealing with really hard shit, which I still deal with all the time, I still think about using. It still crosses my mind, and I'll struggle with that probably the rest of my life. It definitely gets easier, but it still crosses my mind. So it's something that you just have to find healthy coping mechanisms like that.
and everybody
Using
has their
drugs
own
has been
way.
my coping mechanism. Yeah. So you have to find whatever it is. Everyone has their different way to do it, but you have to find something to cope rather than using drugs.
I would recommend people to try anything they can. I mean, if it's
Yes.
NA, if it's AA, if it's
Yep.
if it's taking sewing lessons, like do it. Like
Yeah.
because it
Working
sometimes
out, going to the gym, like yes.
I don't know if I've told you, but for me, what got me sober was getting all my tattoos. So I tried NA, I tried AA, I tried everything under the sun to get sober, and nothing worked for me. I always felt alone. It was probably because of my abandonment issues. But for me, when I made best friends with my tattoo artist, and I would go see him every single day for a few months while I was getting sober, give him my full paycheck, go see him every single day, get a tattoo, hang out with him. I would call him my tattoo shaman, and we were like and we're best friends till this
That's
day.
awesome.
We're best friends till this day, and that was how I got sober. I was fortunate enough to have a good enough job where I was getting paid like enough money to afford this and live at the same time. Not everybody has that, but I was lucky enough to have found that. And that's another little bit about me and why I'm so heavily tattooed.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
good
So
for you.
everybody,
Yeah, I got the sobriety or the serenity prayer tattooed on me. That was my most recent. So that helps me because I can look down at it and when I'm struggling with hard shit, I can't change this. I'm just gonna accept it and do what I can. So
yeah. And when you see that, you'll realize, okay, I did that for a reason. And every time I look in the mirror and I see all the tattoos, it kind of reminds me a little bit, okay, don't fall back to that ever. Like obviously I mentally overcame all these things, but I also have this physical reminder all over my body saying there's a reason why this happened in the first place.
exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing everything with us, and I'll let you
Yeah,
go. You
thanks for
gotta go.
having me.
Yeah, I'll let you go pick up your doggy and hope everything's okay.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I'll be in touch now that we did this. I feel like so much closer to you, and I'm looking forward to doing an episode number 2. And
For sure.
yeah, I'll talk to you
Sweet.
soon.
Thank you. It was a good conversation.
Awesome. Talk to you soon.
Okay. All right. Bye bye.
All right, welcome back. I hope everybody enjoyed that episode. And yeah, I know it was a little bit of a shorter episode, but no apologize for that because I think it was a great episode. Got a lot of great tidbits in there, as well as paints a big picture of what it was like for her there. What a tough girl to go through what she went through and make it out like that. And to be honest, for myself, I thought this episode was a little bit. I got a little bit of personal in here, but I feel like everyone else I've been interviewing has been doing such a great job as opening up and telling their stories and being honest with me. And it's only fair that I do the same and tell a little bit about my stories and addictions and past trauma and this and that. And so I was a little bit hesitant at first to put this one out because of how much I gave away, but that's just who I am, and I'm happy to share it. And so thank you so much for listening and giving me a chance to to do this, and as long as I'm able to, and we're not shut down, I'm going to continue to keep doing it. I have like I said, I have a lot more content and a lot more to say, and I'm really grateful to be able to do this. And I feel like for the first time in my life in 20 years, I've been really able to kind of heal from that experience of going to that institution. So with that being said, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like the videos and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, have a great week. And again, I'm definitely going to throw out a couple of more little bonus features. I really love doing the letters segment and whatever else I can think of. Maybe some more of the reaction videos. I had a lot of fun doing that one, even though I was pissed off. I enjoyed doing them, and those are some of the things that I like about YouTube, are some of those old school reaction videos like H3 when he first started. I think those are hilarious, and you know, if I can have a little bit of fun with this too, then why not? I mean, podcast is serious and I take it serious, but then there's also the bonus features where I feel like I can be a little bit more loose and, you know, have a laugh a little bit, sort of say. So I really appreciate having that outlet, and yeah, I hope everybody can enjoy those bits as well. Don't forget, if you want to send in an anonymous, fuck, I have the worst time saying that, anonymous letter, please do so. I'm really encouraged to get as many stories and things out there as we can about Sorensons Ranch School. So really looking forward to hearing from a few more people, and we'll see you guys next week for another great episode. And who knows, maybe I'll even throw in a bonus episode this week, because I have so much great content and there's a couple of things that I like to share with you. Maybe I have one episode that I feel like might be a little one that I might throw your way for a little extra, as well as a couple more of the bonus features like the letters, as well as maybe a part 2 of the JR, Ryan, and myself, the drunken debauchery, maybe part number 2. Maybe you might see that this week. So with that being said, you guys have a great week. See you next Thursday for sure for a brand new episode of the SRS Files. With that, I'm out. Thank you. Have a great week.